like so giddy right now because we have one of the OGs from our community, Dr. Greta Anderson, who has been on the podcast before. She's been on my Facebook group. You might have seen her on the lives, and people just love her. And I'm sure that even if today is your first time encountering her, you will also fall in love with her wisdom, her kind heart, and all the things that she has to share about starting PR later in life, how to take up space and own your voice for a force of social good. So, welcome to the show again, Dr. Greta.
Hey, Gloria. So good to be here. Thank you for having me.
So, I'm just so proud of your journey, right? So, you're a golf educator, you are an incredible educator, and I want to say coach for so many people as well. You're making one of the widest sports on earth more inclusive, making it more easy for beginners to enjoy golf. And I just love what you're doing because there's not a lot of golfers who look like you, to be honest.
No, they're not. We're working hard to introduce people to the game, and as I like to say, help people fall in love with this amazing game. But that's a process, and so that's what I'm here for. Yeah.
I mean, it must not be easy to start PR later in life and also advocate for yourself when you don't see yourself reflected. So, can you just walk me through a real quick recap on why, obviously you've tried all the things, social media and newsletter, YouTube. Why did you decide to do PR for yourself and also all the gains that you can start to like list all the places that you've been featured. So, why did you do PR and all the wins?
Well, I realized that the value of PR, I mean, we all know the value of PR, but PR for many of us, particularly as small business owners, has oftentimes seen this thing that's kind of far away and expensive and, for a select group of people or a select class of business. And I realized that kind of like a lot of other things in life, it is up to me to be my own advocate, to be my best advocate. No one knows my story better than me. No one knows my passion better than me. And no one knows my plans for the trajectory of my business, of my organization better than me. So I figured, hey, why not tell my story, use my voice to make it happen? And that's been a game changer.
Literally, you're changing the game.
Literally, right. Literally and figuratively. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you started PR later on life. You didn't know it was a
You make me
successful
sound
for
old.
you.
I'm not that old, but yes, I know what you mean. I'm just joking there. Yes. Yeah.
You started, in your 30s, not in your 20s, is what I mean.
Correct. There
Yeah.
you go. There you go. No, I'm very proud of all the years that God has blessed me with. And I'm sitting here, right? Yeah, I'm 52. I don't shy away from it. I'm glad
And you're
to be
more
here.
fit than I will be on my most fittest day. So there you go.
Well, we'll just keep working at it one day at a time. So I did start, as compared to many people. Yes, I started this part of my journey with PR later in life because as a business owner, I've had businesses for years, and I tell people like I had like one Twitter follower and two people on Facebook for for a long time until I decided to be intentional about this. Yeah.
Yeah, that's inspiring and empowering. And so before we get into the mindset of what you've
Yes.
done and how you can help others, can you just list off all the places you've been featured, all the opportunities that you've had from PR?
Sure. Well, I love the medium of the podcast, the modality of the podcast. So I should know that number, but I've been on a lot of podcasts and I love it so much that I started my own, right? Yay. Let's see. And so I've been featured in women's golf. I'm an expert contributor there, sports ed TV, golf.com, which is the digital version of Golf Magazine, which many golfers will know about. I'm leaving out a bunch of different things. I'm a global diversity ambassador for Titleist, number one ball in golf, number one for yay,
Amazing.
love them. Um, Again, I'm leaving out a few things. Oh,
Well, you
I'm a
also have a
certified.
paid, right? Paid. You also have paid sponsorships that you got
Oh
from
yes,
teaching.
right. So I have paid sponsorship. So a coach with Coterie, which is a women's community for helping getting women involved in, as they term it, country club sports. Of course, golf being one of those. We're getting out and helping people to just get a club in their hands. It doesn't always have to be perfect. It doesn't always have to cost. It doesn't cost money to just try it out a little bit. Golf can be a little bit, pricey at times, depending on how you choose to do it. But it's a way to help you create community and get into the game. I've been a long time user and coach with Seymour putters. So I'm a certified Seymour putting instructor. I focus on the things that I really know and love and do about golf. And I don't just take sponsorships and partnerships just for the heck of it. Things that I believe in, like for example with Titleist, I've used them as a player for decades. I've worn their shoes, I've worn their clothes, so it makes perfect sense. But yeah, so I've had an opportunity to really kind of share my passion for the sport, and some other partners and brands and that type of thing have found the value in kind of working together to spread the love, spread the info.
Now, I know that everything you do is through the lens of your values, and that's why I am just so proud to know you.
Thank you.
But before we get into that, with all the things that you said, right?
Yes.
When you traditionally think of PR,
Mm-hmm.
you think of like, oh, I got on like a 50 under 50 or 60 under 60, like,
Yeah.
but all the things that you're saying are even more incredible than just what normally people label as PR. So since you've joined our PR starter pack, you've obviously like opened yourself up to so many different opportunities. But why do you think people need to think about PR, not just like logos on their website? Because you've been able to get PR to work for you in so many other ways.
Yeah, I think that the power of PR comes in, it helps you understand that you you never know who's watching. And that can be a good thing or a bad thing depending on how you choose to view it. I found that with just stepping out there even just a little bit, I realized like, oh my gosh, I have the opportunity to help further my mission, my personal mission, even more than I knew, just because I spoke out. And that gave others who were kind of watching over here the opportunity to see, like, oh, this could be a match, or oh, if she can do it, I can do it, or whatever the case may be. So it really does serve as this kind of uh, impetus for to fuel the growth of your business and your mission and your brand. And so you got to do it.
Yeah, I love that. And for those of you who are listening, we recorded probably a year ago with Dr. Greta, and that was all around imposter syndrome. So definitely go check that out after this episode. I'll put it in the show notes. So Dr. Greta, you join the starter pack. You're pitching yourself for opportunities, and when you see everything as an opportunities, it's just more opportunities, right? It
Right.
just everything
That's right.
shifts.
Right.
I want to talk a little bit about something that no one really talks about when you talk about PR.
Okay.
People approach it very logically.
Mm-hmm.
It's maybe good for business, it's traffic, leads, visibility. But for me and you, I know that this work is sacred and it's
Mm-hmm.
really a form of social justice. So, can you tell me
Yes.
a little bit more about why you would connect the word PR with racial and social justice, which people don't really think about?
No, because you have to shine a light on the ugly to get it out of the way. I mean, that's what that happens. And so, in golf, we know that golf has been loaded with some baggage and some history that has not been very good. Frankly, right? It was not been a very welcoming sport historically to people who were not white and not male. Let's just call it what it is. And so, as a woman of color, I am an exception. I mean, there are many, many brown and black people that are playing golf right now. We're still the exception. Golf is a phenomenal sport for many reasons, and for that, the door has been closed, but we've kicked the door down. And so, shining a light on these things that let me back it up a little bit. When you have an unpleasant experience, oftentimes, for whatever reason, we tend to think, even though we know that these things may be happening elsewhere, it was very visceral and it happened to you. We tend to kind of want it to go away. We might think about it, but we kind of shove it in the closet. But guess what? That just allows it to continue. And others who are experiencing having these shared experiences are feeling the same way. So you have a bunch of people out here thinking like, oh, it was just me or this or that, when it wasn't. So I realized that, hey, when these things happen, they're happening to people. I've kind of got thick skin. I've been in kind of what they call country club sports my entire life, between tennis and golf. I've kind of run the gamut between walking in the clubhouse and somebody thinking I was the person cleaning, or I was this or that, instead of being, a player for whatever the case may be. That doesn't mean it's right, but I've developed a kind of a hardier skin. But I also know that there are many people who are coming into the sport who may not have that. And this stuff is really pushing them away, which is precisely what a handful of less than ideal people want. Well, we know that this is a great game and it's for everyone. So I view it as my responsibility, my calling in many ways. I know that might sound hokey to some people, but it is, to me, it's really a calling to help shine the light on this ugliness. As I mentioned to you, I mean, that I had an experience was very unpleasant just a couple weeks ago. And instead of just kind of internalizing that, I said, no, I've got to share this with my community. And when I made an episode of my podcast about it, it was one of the most listened to episodes. And I'm not saying that to promote the episode. I'm saying that because instantly so many people reacted and communicated with me like, gosh, dog it, Greta, I've had something similar,
Yeah.
or this or that. It's happening. And the only way to help people still feel more welcome into the sport is to let them know, like, we're together in this, and we're going to get these assholes out of here. And we got to have to just do what we got to do. But we're not going away, right?
Yeah.
We are here and we belong here just like everyone else. So in terms of social justice, no, it is certainly not like voting, and the gravity of the vote and that type of thing is a next level as compared to something like golf. But social justice is real. I mean, we belong here, and so that is my little corner of the world to make a difference, and that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, and like you taking up space and being on the golf magazines, right? You being on the YouTube channels, you being on the field. PR
Correct.
is just a reflection of that. So that's why it's our sacred duty to take up space on
Right.
earned media, because that
Exactly.
that gives you way more reach than social media, which really
Correct.
confines you into your audience.
Correct. Correct.
So
Yeah.
we don't have to go in deep detail
Hmm.
about what
Hmm.
happened, and
Yeah.
but you did tell me that
Hmm.
something very awful and racist did happen to you,
Hmm.
where you were basically treated as a nothing, as
Right.
invisible.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and this is why we have to do this work, right? We
Hmm.
have to show up and
Yep.
do PR
Hmm.
and show up. So um, is there anything on that you want to share for people? For a lot of times, people who have amazing stories, one thing I always get is people say, I have nothing to share, or I'm not ready to share, or or they feel like there's this imaginary bar they have
Hmm.
to meet in order to be PR worthy. So what do you have to say to that?
No, no, there is no. I mean, everyone has a story, right? And if I feel like this, if whatever that stirring or that calling or that story is, if it was enough to drive you forward in creating a business or a brand, or even the idea for that business or brand, then honor that and understand that it's a worthy statement. It wouldn't have come into your head if it didn't have some validity, right? And again, in this world where there's so much information, there's so much media, whether that's social or earned or everything in between, you're going to have to be your own advocate. I think that's one of the things that we have to become comfortable with, understanding that we will have great partners along the way, but it's my story to tell. It's your story to tell, and you have to get it out there, because the nuances of your story are some things that probably only you can best share.
Yeah, 100%. So obviously the CPR method from the PR starter pack allowed you to
Hmm.
get that like first way of talking to people, right? How are
Yes.
you able to leverage the CPR method of pitching to get other opportunities like that maybe people don't really think about using
It was a
for
game
this method?
changer. And I think I've probably communicated this to you a million times at this point. But one of the most powerful lessons and assets that I've gained from using the CPR method is I've kind of worked to train myself to think of how I can use my knowledge and skill set to serve other people, because at the end of the day, when I'm communicating with a podcast host or a journalist or whatever the case may be, or publication, I mean, I'm gonna say they don't care about me, but they don't care about me, right? How can I help them better serve their audience? That's what I always look for. And I didn't really think about it that way. I was often trying to figure out, like, okay, well, how will I introduce myself to them, and why will they find it to be relevant to talk to this little black, this little, little black, not little and demeaning myself at all, but I'm saying, this professional, this golf professional. Okay, great, she teaches golf, but that's they get lots of pitches on a daily basis. How would I differentiate myself? And it wasn't until I really began the framework of CPR method helped me to see, like, let's flip the script on that and talk about how we can serve them, and then it can become a win-win for everyone. right? Because if I
Mm.
can help you see how this will work, I've got the information and the context to help you, and you have the expertise to write it or fashion it however it needs to be. So that's really like the big takeaway for me. That's always been for me from the starter pack.
That's incredible. So, I mean, obviously, and you have so much knowledge that you bring to the table too, like so much experience, and I think any outlet, anybody would benefit from talking to you, and you know that that's intrinsic. Is there
Thank you.
anything else that you've learned about developing a relationship from being strangers with a journalist to now getting written up multiple times, and how, like, anything else for people to look ahead? Maybe people aren't where you are and haven't gotten all of those
Hmm.
things, and they're just getting into the starter pack and trying
Hmm.
to get their first outlet. What should they
Hmm.
know about the process that you've been on?
Slow but steady wins the race, and be consistent, and be true, and of course be honorable, because I've been working at this diligently but consistently for a little while now. And I will give you an example. I was on a call for I'm on the national committee for well, it's not a secret anymore. So Delta Sigma Theta, there's a national sorority, which actually I'm a member, but our national convention in Delta Sigma Theta is a sorority organization of 350,000 strong African American women. And at our national convention this summer, we're hosting our first national golf event. Delta's on the fairways. And so I have the privilege of serving on that committee and using my expertise to help serve in many ways. And so one of the members came on to the meeting. We were talking about some things, and she said, "Well, I have to tell you, Dr. Greta, everywhere I turn and ask about golf, you pop up, whether that's conversation or Google or this or that." And I said, "Well, good." And so what I began to realize is that this is the work of using the CPR method. If you here, there, if you're looking around and inquiring about golf in that particular context that she was, you were running into me, which is what this is all about, right? So that's when I say, like, it didn't happen overnight and there's still much work to be done, but this is how the process works. So being consistent and being true, and remember the one thing, that everything that, we're in the digital world, so things don't just, go in the trash can and go away. They're always there. So put your best foot forward and remember that what you say is going to stay out there. So those are the types of things, but that's a good thing, right? Because if you're being true to yourself and being very intentional and committed to your story and your calling, then it'll be great things.
Yeah, and you can change your mind. Your business can
Oh yeah,
evolve, right?
evolution is for sure.
Yeah,
I hope we will all evolve in some way, and our level of, if you will, sophistication will evolve and that type of thing. So yeah, but that those would be the big things, I think.
that's awesome. Now, obviously, we have the media database in the PR starter pack, but what if someone's not in the starter pack yet? Like, how can they start to just be a good steward of the news and understand, like, what angle? Because they might think, well, I have so many different things to say. Like, which one should I pick first? Do you have any hacks or tips and tricks on, like, what stories to pitch when and for what platform?
Well, that is the thing, because most of us, right, we'll have many different things in our mind, like there's so many ways. If you have a servant's heart, you have a servant's heart, and there's so many ways that you can see and think about serving. I think the one thing to do is to kind of have to be patient with yourself, but also decisive in that. Make a decision about what's the angle you're going to take for now, and work that. And then, as we just said, things evolve and mature, and paths diverge and that type of thing. But commit to that. And for some of us, depending on what the product or service is, it may be more seasonal or whatever the case may be. But be intentional about your path. It can't be kind of all over the place. That doesn't really serve anybody, because also remember, it kind of all ties in. If a journalist, let's just say you submit a pitch, there's a good chance that they might go and check you out, right? Where? On your social media. So if 1 minute you're talking about this and 1 minute you're talking about that, and they're like, well, I thought she was an expert. She's telling me in this pitch she's an expert in this, but when I look on here, she's talking about X, Y, and Z, but she's saying that she spends time on ABC. Is
Yeah.
that a match? Not a match. So thinking about those things, because those are things that we control. You control what you post, right? You control, all of these things come together to make your presentation as a professional for someone to see in terms of partnering with you for PR.
Yeah. I recommend everyone listening to really just get a piece of paper and write out the 3 to 5 topics that you want to talk about. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not about talking about everything. It's not about being pigeonholed into one thing,
Right.
but you can talk about many things. So, for example, for you, Dr. Greta, you can talk about being a lifelong learner. You can talk
Correct.
about DEI. You can
Mm-hmm.
talk about what's changing in golf. You can talk
Mm-hmm.
about sunscreen and
Yeah,
like
that's right.
protecting your skin. So,
Right.
those are your topics. And as you can listen, as I'm telling this,
Mm-hmm.
it covers many different issues.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the more that we realize that the world is our oyster, and even if
Mm-hmm.
you make a beauty product, it's not just you talking about makeup, right? It could be
Right.
about sustainability. It could be
Right.
about representation. It could be about different shades of foundation. Your world just starts to expand. So I really
Correct.
want everyone to just get a piece of paper and talk about like the 3 or 5 bullet points that they want to talk about and then narrow it down from there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a great point. Is there anything
Exactly.
else you found from like connecting with journalists or maybe following up if they don't respond? Or how do you create like an opportunity and a win in unseeming places?
I always emphasize. It's funny. I was just before we came on. I sent an email and I was about an event and I was said in there. We have a good rapport. So I always want to remind you that my goal and my intention is to be a great partner. I view everything I go into everything hoping that we can create a partnership, not just this purely transactional relationship. Because when things come up, I want to be one of those people that come to the top of their thought list, right? Oh, we need an article about, or we're looking to do a piece about this. Greta, that's what I want versus, this kind of one and done thing. I just don't find it. And this season of my life, at this point, if I look back on my journey thus far, I see that the most valuable outcomes have come from relationships versus just kind of, hey, this and that, right? So that's really where I strive to create relationships. Just like in life, less is more for me. I've never really kind of been this person like, I need to know everybody. I need to be the most popular. I want you to know that I'm in depth about the things that I do spend time on, whether that's friendships or education or whatever the case may be. So that's kind of how I operate when it comes to creating opportunities with journalists and that type of thing.
And now, with everyone going freelance and writing for multiple outlets, it's
Correct.
even a double win because if you have one journalist in your back pocket, they'll write for many different ones.
Correct.
And it's not a one and done because you've proven yourself to be a very credible thought leader and source. So
Right.
they're going to keep writing about you. You just need to get onto their contact list.
Correct.
Now, obviously, install a Google News alert, right? So that's
Mm-hmm.
one thing. Be a good steward of the news. Is there anything else that journalists who are, or founders who are just getting started with PR, like some
Mm-hmm.
good practices that they should practice?
Well, one of the things that I had to get comfortable with was following up. You're going like, well, they got the email. I know they get like 10,000 emails a day. It's just, me, I'm kind of new at this. They don't want to hear from me again. They're going to block me. If they're going to block me, they're going to block me, right? But I need to know. And sometimes it's precisely that. They have so many things going that little tickler can be the difference between you like, what, thank you for sending me that reminder, Greta. I've been on vacation. I got this, I got married, I got all of these things. The long, the short is we'd love to do a piece. Can you sketch out this, and this? And then you're like, oh. So I always say, like, what's on the other side of me hitting this, send button is what I want.
Yeah.
And just remember that. I mean, again, those relationships, again, I'm not saying, hey, how come you haven't responded to me? I fashion things, hey, just following up, right?
Yep, because you're not being sleazy. You're not being like, "Why are you not buying my
Right.
course?" You're like, "Hey, I gave you 3 tips for not get sunburn on the field." Like you're helping people, and I think that's the beauty of knowing how to do PR because you're learning how to have a non-salesy but value-driven conversation
Correct.
with everyone. And
Correct.
this is a work that I think will be this is the $10,000 an hour task, and I would do that all day. Then twiddle my thumbs trying to make a Canva graphic, right? That I can delegate. So now
Right.
you've gotten paid sponsorships, paid
Mm-hmm.
consulting,
Mm-hmm.
using the
Mm-hmm.
CPR method to be and you have your own podcast. What's next for you?
The what's next for me is the evolution of my instruction. Is I'm a golf educator, and so this journey as an educator and as a researcher, I cannot I could not cannot take the credit for architecting this. Who knew that 20s, 20, however many years ago, when I was this graduate student working on research related to persistence, which is just kind of, the fancy word for staying in the educational process, would be directly connected to the research that I'm fashioning and doing now as a golf educator. I've I've always understood anecdotally how, particularly for female adult golf learners, the process is a bit different, particularly for women who are, women in general, but particularly for non-white women. The process looks very different. And so the beauty of it is I'm adapting and kind of my own little passion project here, but it's turned applied research, as we call it, right? Putting it into my business to help grow the game, right, and help more women learn. What I know is this: the long and the short, I won't get into all the boring details of the research itself, but there are three pillars: coaching, curriculum, community. If any one of those three legs of the stool are not there for most women, adult learners coming to the game as adults, the stool's going to fall over and it's not going to work. They can be the most fabulous ball strikers and all the types of things. No community, it's going to fall over. They can be again, any two of those three, they're out of the game. So the important thing is to make this great kind of triangle for them. So building curriculum that can support women no matter where they live. They don't have to live near me, right? Programming so that I can help people all over. Also creating some amazing events so that folks can come in very specific ways and come work with me if they so choose, along with those events that I've had over the years in other parts of the world. But really honing in on that, because that's where my great passion is. I know that there are many women who get in the game and they begin swinging, which is great, but they don't take the next step. And in fact, I kind of had this focus group a couple weeks ago inadvertently. I'm always a researcher, so I always get to do stuff like that when I have an opportunity. And very interesting. These are highly educated, high earning women. All they've got it going on. And to a woman, they all said that they didn't declare themselves as golfers in conversation, whether that was in the boardroom or at the, white tie, the black tie event, because they didn't feel confident about some other soft skills that go with golfing. So they know how to hit a ball, but in the presence of other people, they would not declare themselves to be golfers. And so things like that show me that we've got a little bit more work to do, and that's really kind of how that's the overlying arch around all of my golf instruction and my services.
Ooh, that's so good. I mean, that's really when I think about anyone who is an infopreneur, like anyone who is in the business of coaching others with
Mm-hmm.
information,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
need those three pillars. And when I look at my community too, we have those three. We have coaching, curriculum, and community. So thank you for wrapping that up. You're so smart. And that's, yeah, I never thought
Thank you.
about it that way. But every online entrepreneur who has a community needs to have that. So thank you
Mm-hmm.
so much. And how can people find you? We definitely need to go to ATL because last time we had
Come
our
on
monthly call, we had
down.
PR. Yeah, we had other ATL PR members in there. So I cannot wait to like do an in-person gathering. But how can people
Yes.
find you, whether it's about golf, whether it's about
Mm-hmm.
persistence, whether it's about imposter syndrome, or just doing something that is difficult but doing it anyway?
Sure. So a bunch of ways. So I'm on social media at Dr. Greta Golf. That's where you can find me. But then on LinkedIn, I'm at Dr. Greta, no golf on there.
Hmm.
But you can go to my website. Guess what? drgretagolf.com, and you can find all the things about me there and directions to get to me. And if you didn't and you want to take a try at our podcast and listen, it's called the Smart Golfer Podcast. It comes out every Wednesday, and would love to have you take a listen.
Thank you so much, Dr. Greta. I am
Thank
so in
you.
awe of you. And thank you for being part of our community. I'm so grateful that I know you.
Likewise, I'm so thankful that you stepped out there and built this, and you're doing such great work to serve so many people. We all love you madly, and there's a reason that you are growing. Your business is growing like wildfires because it's so valuable to so many people. So thank you.
Well, we are all doing our part to shine a light on others. So
Amen. Yay.